Hey everybody, welcome. It's Jason Lynette here, and we're here to talk about business. We're here to talk about becoming even more ethically influential inside of what you do. And no, this is not the community where we're here to trick or manipulate people. It is to realize, though, that all communication is influential. All communication is persuasive. So the reality is, if this is what we're going to be doing, no matter what we're saying, even if it is suggesting what we're having for dinner or what time and who's picking up the kid from the school bus, if everything we do is going to be influential, and if we know for a fact that our coaching, our consulting service can actually help to change people's lives, you see that we now start to owe it to ourselves to communicate to the highest level possible, to really start to build that conversation. I want to thank you all for joining me. We're going to see the room is rapidly filling up, which is always good to see. If you can hear me all right, always fun to play with technology. We did something new for this event that sent out the announcement right at go time. But if you can hear me all right, just so I know, because as high tech as we can get, I still run my sound from this little button down there. Drop the word okay in the comments, just so I know to keep rolling here, so I don't get to the good stuff before you all go, make it louder. Give me just an okay in the comments down below, just so I see that we're all good to roll and get things running up in here. Let me close that out. There we go. Awesome for that. So I'll give you, there we go. Find you, I love this. Denise, found you finally. No, I felt the same about you the first time we chatted. And on that note, let's officially jump in here. I'll give you the overview of who I am and what this group is all about. Putting in more than a dozen years professional experience as a hypnotist. And the words, understandably, the words hypnotist or even hypnotherapist are oddly interchangeable. In most training events, it's literally a matter of check the box, which title do you want? In fact, over in that world, I keep having to remind them that the word hypnotist tends to be what most people are looking for. So there's some people over in that world who are clinging to the word hypnotherapy when really people are looking for the simple word of hypnotist, which this is not a community in terms of how to produce change by means of hypnosis, though at times I will share with you strategies to let go of fears, rewrite some of those mental stories, as well as help you to become more influential in terms of how you communicate with yourself. This all happened by a bit of a happy accident a number of years ago, where instead my clients who were coming to see me for personal change were doing the standard thing we all do nowadays and looking me up on the web to make sure I wasn't weird. You've done it. Be honest. And what happened was they saw that here I was speaking at marketing conventions. Here I was speaking at training events. And again, where we all started here today. The fact is, all communication is influential. And think about this. What happened for me when the same techniques that I was using to help someone to let go of a 40 or 50 year problem with cigarettes, and listen carefully, by putting the right words together in the right order at the right time, they quit. And that was the end of it. Here was a person with a lifelong fear. There's a guy who years ago had not driven beyond a mile from his home. And after we worked on that story of that old fear, suddenly I got a text message from this guy. He had driven 3 hours south to go visit friends and family at a church that he had not been to in years. And as much as we can use these skills towards personal change, I soon discovered that when we picked up those same methods and put them inside of our messaging, it did something kind of interesting. What it actually began to do was to change the stories that people were telling themselves in their minds. And ethically so. The whole thing that became the reality was suddenly now here was a communication mechanism where people were wanting more of what I had to offer even before I made the sales offer. And in these different communities, we do have a bit of a catchphrase around this that, yes, we're here to take the best care of our clients, to love the hell out of who they are and what we can serve for them. And at all times, it's always doing this towards their own best interest. Later on inside of it, we get into the details of the ethical side of things, of how to calibrate, how to make sure they're in sync, and how we are actually serving by selling. And that's a theme we've gotten into in this group several times over. So I want to know if you're all ready for me to jump into this whole theme around transitioning into sales. Stick with me here because you're going to get 3 strategies that I'll just tell you. I'm doing something a bit different today to peel back the curtain and let you know some of the inner workings of not only what I do, but what some of my most successful students have done as well. So I've already got yeses coming into the comments down below, but we have to do this our way around here. If you're ready for me to dive into this, just comment, put it in all caps, make it rain. Those 3 words, that's what I need to see to let me know that you're all ready, you're all actively listening, you're ready to take some notes and begin to put this stuff to use. Comment down below, make it rain. That's going to give me my cue to jump into all of this. Let's see. Oh, that's already rolling in. That's what we like to see. Cool. I am getting an alert, by the way, that several of you are just now getting a text message that we're starting. Technology is always fantastic. There we go. Make it rain, all caps. I want a cloudburst. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming I understand it. And Tracy said make it rain, so now we can officially begin. So here's the discovery. Here's the reality. Where most people lose confidence inside of what they do are in transitions. Think about that. Here's the person, let's use an outside example. Here's the person at the gym who has every intention to go in, and maybe they have a specific exercise program they wish to follow, and they're getting off the treadmill, and the next thing that they're about to do is go to this other machine where they now put their feet on the sliding things and they move their arms back and forth. Yes, I know it's an elliptical, but it sounds better to describe it as the thingy with the sliding feet part. And what happens is the one that they like, someone's on it. And you and I have done this before too, perhaps. You could go to something else, but it becomes, you know what, I should probably get back home. And they leave. Or perhaps here's where someone's following an exercise program, a diet program, and they're doing fantastic at home, and then they go out for some sort of business trip, something of that nature, and because now they don't have the same prepped stuff in that transition, they lose momentum, and they end up having who knows what. So it's in these transitions which recognize one of the principles I teach inside of Hypnotic Influence, which is all about high-ticket sales for online coaches. One of the biggest principles is there's one thing we're always selling. And unless you understand that this is something you are truly selling at all times, you're going to miss the point on a lot of it, and you're realizing that you're just saying things for the sake of saying things and not getting the results that you want. I have to throw in a disclaimer here, though, which is that, thankfully, some people often have the concern of, is this manipulation? Is this taking advantage? And the reality is that, luckily, the people who want to use it to bad effect aren't willing to often put in enough effort to get good at it, which we got rid of those people. And second of all, let me know if you're only planning on using your powers for good. Before I share these 3 strategies, drop the word promise in the comments down below, just so I know we've got the right audience for this. As you're dropping that word promise down below, the reason is this. It's in the transitions that we make from one segment of our communication to the next. Think like hurdles. We're only jumping to the next hurdle when we know for a fact it's the time to do that. We're putting intention, we're putting purpose, and I'm seeing a bunch of promises already rolling in. Here we go. Here's the first one, which there's a very important transition in the shape of your business. I got a pinky swear out of somebody. There's a funny link. Those of you watching me on the live stream right now, there's a weird link you have to click so I see your name. Otherwise, it just says Facebook user. But that is legally binding. So we'll take it. So the first segment of this is, here's a place where someone reaches out to you. Someone is reaching out to you, and from that reach out, they are identifying a couple of important elements. One, the fact that they're reaching out to you means there's something that they wish to resolve. Two, the fact that they're reaching out to you means that they see you as a possible resource to help them to resolve that issue. I've got a bit of a hot mic, so I'm adjusting that. And third, they're already starting to tell themselves the story as to what may happen if they were actually to work with you in the context of what you do. So because of that, it is now our ethical responsibility to step into that role. And the first step, comfort, ease. Go back and listen to the replay of this in a minute or so, because here is the exact language that I use. Great, thanks for calling me today. And I'll tell you, the way that this obviously works is that we'll spend some time talking about your goals, and then I'll open up some time if you've got some specific questions for me. And then only if I'm confident that I can help you out, I'll explain how we can get started as early as today. Sound good? Which there doesn't seem like a lot to be going on there. But there's a ton that's going on there. Because what we're doing there in that opening moment, that opening 30 seconds or so, well, let's talk about the opposite first. I had to call a garage door company a couple of days ago, and I make the phone call into this professional company. I get the professional response of, yeah? Is this the garage company? Oh, hang on. Yeah, who is it? I'm trying to reach that. You're already seeing my level of prestige and respect and care for this artistry that is their garage door remote control repair service. It's already beginning to fall down. So if we can begin the interaction from the world that I often teach from, of bringing people into some sort of application where now we're on a call, think about what happens differently. If in that opening couple of moments, you are establishing credibility. I want you to hear this next statement with some care around it. You are taking control, not of them, but of the conversation, because clearly they're reaching out to you as you are the expert in terms of what you do. And think about that feeling of safety that you are establishing in that opening segment to just lay it out there. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you about this. You can ask me about that. And then, listen to this one. And then, as I'm confident that I can help you out, I'll explain how we can get started as early as today. Sound good? Which we call that a checkpoint. It's not quite in the world of a yes set, but it's like in the same cul-de-sac as the yes set. It's establishing a sense of comfort. It's asking for that checkpoint. And by doing so, and yes, someone already caught one of my tricks. Here we go. Just curious. I hear you repeatedly say, if I'm confident I can help you, rather than when I am confident. Doesn't the if sort of suggest that you are not positively confident? And if you listen to what I just said, what I likely said, and I have to check the replay myself in a moment, as I'm confident, if I'm confident. So again, it's entirely up to you, but take note of that. As on the wall over there is actually our trademark for hypnotic language hacks. Words have power. Sometimes by changing out a few words, it becomes an entirely different story that people are telling them. I would say, Facebook user, as you didn't yet click that fancy link up above, really at that point, it's kind of covert. I prefer to use as, or I like when. I like as better though. So as, when, if. So if you're on the fence. Really, for me, I have specific criteria as to who I'm deciding that I get to work with. So take note of that, those of you offering some sort of strategy call, that really it's a two-way conversation. It's not just that they're interviewing you to see if you're a fit. It's also that you're interviewing them. Because I'll call it out, the reason why in this community I often ask you to do things interactively is, to put it simply, those people who take action, those people who follow through, those people who are willing to follow a couple of instructions are the ones who actually go through my courses, actually complete the consulting that I do with them, and actually get the results. We all have books we haven't yet read. So sometimes that is, to your question, a bit of an intentional if, because I'm screening them. I don't want anybody with a pulse and a credit card to join what I do. So again, back to the ethics, the promises that you all made. So the way this obviously works, that's a little subtle pen right there. The way that this obviously works is I'll chat a bit further and ask you some questions to find out what your goals are. And then there's time if you've got questions for me. And then perchance, no, and then As I see that you're the best fit for what I do, and I'm sure I can help you out, there's a variation. So again, make it your own. As I see that you're a fit for what I do best, and I know you're the type of person who's going to benefit from it, in that situation, then I'll tell you how we can get started as early as today. A little bit wordier, but you see how we made that transition, and then I can jump into my first question for them, which is a preview, by the way. My favorite question is always, why now? So there's transition number one. How do we go from the opening 30 seconds to win the confidence to then lead to the next step? There's a story around this next transition, which a little while ago, I reached out to the person who I thought I learned this from. And I said, I heard you talk about this one time. You're going to love this. I heard you talk about this one time, and I've been using it quite a bit, and I have my own refinements that make it different. But do you mind if I teach this and refer to what you do? And he responded in wonderful, vivid detail, picked up the phone and called me and said, tell me more about that, because I've never heard of that before. Does anyone else have dreams about people you watch videos from on the web or books that you've read? I think that's what happened. He visited me in my dreams and gave me the gift, and my unconscious mind birthed a technique I'm going to share with you here called product pacing. Product pacing. Now, in the hypnotic language world, there's a concept called future pacing. And back to this wonderful question that popped up earlier, by the way. I'm going to use this only when I see the opening is there that 1, this person can afford what I do, 2, they're willing to follow my instructions, and 3, I am certain this is the type of person who's going to get the benefit from what I do. Happened on Saturday night. Yeah, someone was commenting that they had the visitor dream. So this gets into our disclaimer around this. I'm only ever going to make my promise as well and use these powers for good. So the concept of future pacing for the person working for personal change. You pace to the future, which I know you're never supposed to define something by using the exact words, but you pace the language into the future. Be there in your mind as if there you are, standing on that platform, hearing your confidence in your own voice, noticing how good you feel. That's future pacing. Product pacing is what I'm chatting about here. And just so people have the terminology here, someone just play scribe for me and comment product pacing down below. 2 words, product pacing. Thanks for that. The concept is, I'm going to start to plant some seeds. I'm going to start to layer into my communication with you the next steps, but not the next steps of signing up. The next steps, thank you for that, the next steps of what you're going to be doing after you've signed up. So I was on a call with someone this morning, someone joining our private Hypnotic Influence mastermind community. And there was a moment in the conversation, which, to be fair, he had been talking to me before and had been listening to different podcasts of mine. And he heard the moment and he goes, oh, that's how you do that. I couldn't figure out how to layer that in. So it was us joining together and kind of nerding out to go, oh, that's not as hard as I presented it to be. Because you know what, as soon as you're into the program, fill out that application that pops up right away, because that's going to let me know what your exact goals are. And as much as I say, go through the digital content linear from start to finish, if I see there's a specific module that's going to be the most beneficial for you to watch right away, I'm going to point you to that as soon as I can. That way we can get you a small, quick win immediately. Checkpoint. Makes sense? So what was the product pacing? Well, he couldn't watch that specific video that I knew was going to be the best fit for his situation until he had received the email invoice. He had put in the credit card numbers and signed up for the community. So I'm talking about what's going to happen next. Those of you in a one-to-one consulting world, hey, and you're going to see, and people often ask, well, what should I do between now and the first time we meet? Which means they're already product pacing themselves inside too. It's beautiful, isn't it? What happens there is the situation where now you can say something of the nature of, well, you'll see in the forms that I'll send you, it's going to ask you several specific questions that tell me what your goals are and what we need to address. Which, think about the logical nature, they don't get that link with the office forms until they've signed up for the program and you've sent them a confirmation. The same as, as soon as you're in the community, make sure you hop into our private group and introduce yourself. Let us know what your business is and let us know one of your specific goals as to why you joined us. This way, I'm there to support you, but also now, so is the entire community. Can't do that unless you're already inside. Let me just nerd out on technology for a moment and either lock this into your brain and build it, or as we like to say of big proponents of outsourcing, hire a nerd. There's one place in my private services where it's not a free consult. It's a paid strategy session for the reason of let's not make this, and this is not the only way to do it. This is one way that I do it in one segment of what I do. Rather than go through the free call, instead, you and I are going to get together on a working call. Click the button below. It's going to charge you this amount for a payment. And it's where, in the course of the next 90 minutes in that meeting, we're going to dive into what you're currently doing, diagnose exactly what needs to happen, and give you the roadmap to make it occur. I will tell you in advance, the roadmap to make it easier is the program that you're looking at on this page. Or in the rare chance you'd rather kind of muscle up and do it on your own, that's what you're going to have at the end of that call. Which is where, rather than getting into a high-pressure sales process, I'll tell you in advance my clever closing strategy. All right, so what do you want to do? And let it be as organic as that, because now, sell the next step. They paid for that call. We got to work. They saw the value, and that then sold itself. So product pacing, here's the nerd out moment. Here's the video that talks about what information I need before we schedule. And in the funnel sequence, here's the video and there's the payment form. The video is talking about the application. The application is what you see after you complete the payment form. If I've bursted your head with technology, we walk this through in the Hypnotic Influence community. Otherwise, ask a nerd. So again, product pacing, find places in your language to put them inside of the next step as if they're already there. Again, only use your powers for good. We're going a little long here. If you're okay for me to do the last one, which I'll tell you what the last one's all about, as we have now been going to the Disney and Universal parks, as we're now in Orlando, and it's all right around the corner. Just drop the word more down below, so I know I can keep going a little bit longer here, because this is our Jedi closing strategy, by the way, at least part of it. If you want, actually, yeah, put the word more down below, and that'll tell me that you're okay for time, and we should keep rolling here with this last segment here, because I try to keep these at a tight amount of time. More. There we go. Awesome. All right. So in the world of hypnotic influence, in the world of putting together the language and personal influential strategies to really begin to put this all together, there's more moving pieces around this segment, but I wanted to actually play the game of the arcade cherry picker and reach down inside and pull out one of the parts that people have given us the best feedback on. Did you see that hot, sexy mime work? By the way, it was seamless. You're welcome. All right. So all I'm going to give you for the sake of this third transition is we've now been talking about the process. We've been talking about their goals, what we do, and now there's a clear transition, as our theme is here. There's a transition in terms of what needs to happen next, which is we can make them feel happier on the phone call, but when they hire our service, they make use of our products, or in my world, I prefer you to somehow combine the two into something hybrid. We need to make that transition. And I'm cautious here, because this has been one of the things we've gotten to. Let's just go there. Here's the magic phrase. Don't overuse this, because if you overuse it, it sounds stupid. And you're all smart. So let's find a way to just use this, and this is a less is more. First part of this, as much as we get into hypnotic language hacks and what are the methods of ethical influence, and then getting into applications of You're doing videos. Here's where to plug this language pattern in. You're writing sales copy. Here's how to use this formula to create a subject line that people actually open rather than goes right into the trash. You're writing an email, and your reality is just like transitions. The opening sentence of an email is a sales pitch to keep reading to the next sentence. See? Always selling the next step. As much as here's this language pattern and here's where to use it, as much as there's that language pattern and here's where to use that. One of the most powerful language patterns you can possibly use is silence. Giving people space to collect their thoughts, let something sink in, or shift the tone of the entire conversation. See how we just did that? So, not to make it too theatrical, but for the sake of a natural transition, very often, let's call it out. A person is reaching out to you because they have a specific need. And again, inside of the program, it now becomes, here's how we start to craft the marketing material. So now they're telling themselves the story as to, I want more from this person. And they're telling them that stories, and then here you are swooping in and then finally making that offer as they're already telling themselves that story, putting themselves, they're product pacing themselves, putting themselves in the sales conversation. And then here you are when you've calibrated it at the right time, and they're ready and they're receptive to hear the message and hear this, you've now earned the right to make that message out there. Silence. There's the Jedi moment. And really, that's why we're talking today, isn't it? Variations. And that's why you called me, isn't it? Yeah. And that's why you scheduled this time with me, right? It is. These are the influential patterns that you're looking for. True story. I only watched all the Star Wars movies last year. This one right over my shoulder is Spaceballs. Mathematically, it's a better movie because it took one movie for the guy to realize he already had the magical power. 3 movies of the original Star Wars. And then 6 more followed that. Allow that moment for a pause. And that's why we're having this conversation, isn't it? And that's why you filled out the form on my website, right? And that's why you stuck through to the end of my live training in the group yesterday. Right? At which point, it's no longer the game as to what some people think what I would be doing from the guy with hypnotic language hacks and ethical influence for sales, of clever objection crushers. We want to satisfy all the objections. We want to clear all the roadblocks before we ever get there. As Jesse says in the chat, the radar is jammed. Because this is happening now. Not just now. I already knew it. Jesse and I just became best friends with that moment. So the disclaimer is that little transition has brought you out of logical, analytical conversation, has brought them into real emotion. And I caution you, it's powerful. I have someone who joined one of my sort of higher ticket communities, and she just made use of this one pattern and immediately tripled her prices and was consistently getting it. That being said, it's like the question that popped up earlier. The reality is, we do it when we know for a fact if this person makes use of what I do and I guide them through it and I hold them accountable. This is why we combine online program along with real-time interaction. By doing that, I'm going to get this person a result. Back to the ethics, back to that promise. Now, how dare I not make it easy for that person to take this next step? Which, again, there's more to this in terms of what are the language patterns that are now getting them to actually get on that call. What are those things we're doing even once somebody's inside of what we do to then logically climb up that value ladder? And again, value always in both ways. As we're providing more value, they're receiving more value back, and we're receiving value in terms of moving into a high ticket space, whatever that means specifically for you. If you're finding yourself right now struggling in that bumping your rate up by 10 or 20 bucks, or playing with the branding, the colors on your website, as in, should I do it this way or that way? You're chasing the wrong thing. It always comes back to communication. People do business with people. And if this is something you need some help with, I'm here to help you out. Drop the word Jedi. Hey, we got to go off the Star Wars theme. Drop the word Jedi in the conversation down below, and either myself or someone on my team will reach out to you and we'll open up a dialogue. We'll talk about your goals. We'll explain exactly what hypnotic influence is. And then if we're confident we can help you out, we'll let you know exactly what that looks like. But if you find yourself chasing the game of Facebook or this or this or that, it always comes back to communication. Rewind back everything you've heard me say here and realize I haven't once yet talked about a specific platform. I haven't yet once played the game of this is what works on Facebook. Oh, if you're going on TikTok, do this. Or if you're going on Clubhouse, do that. No, this stuff is universal. This is human psychology. This is how the brain connects connections. There's a sentence. And it's from that dialogue that's where we now are seeing exactly where they are and how to logically lead to the next step. If this is something you need help with, drop the word Jedi down below. I can stick around a couple of extra minutes here because Joshua had a fantastic question. How do you know when someone can afford the product? This is where, in terms of linguistic patterns, here's a preview of something else, to then chunk up, and then hit my stand goal for the day, to then chunk up in terms of what does this represent, and then chunk down into other things. So let's assume, for example, let's say a weight loss offer. So it's a little brash sometimes to simply say, what's your budget for this? Now, mind you, that is appropriate for some markets. So, for example, there are two groups I bounce back and forth between right now for some simple tasks. One, and they both do Facebook ads. And this is a theoretical example based on people that I hire. One, openly ask me, what's your budget? Because I'll peel back the curtain. I pay them $2,500 a month for their service, and then I pay the ad spend on top of that. They're worth it. The other one will basically swoop in sometimes for some of the smaller campaigns that I might be running to fill like one last spot inside of an event, and I don't want to put the beast. She probably doesn't like that I call her that. I don't want to put the beast on that one. I'll put the smaller one on there just to kind of look at the code behind the scenes, and he's $25 an hour. So if they were in that world, the question could be, that's a place we're asking, what's your budget? Because it's directly talking about a specific ad spend. Off of the weight loss example, what have you done so far to try to address this? What experiences has this stood in the way of? And as much as we're in the conversation, as much as we're listening to the details of what we're saying, we're also listening, I got to say it, to the subtext as to what else they're saying. So, for example, this is actually a really great company. Fitness Together is a personal training franchise, and it's called Fitness Together because you're in there together with one trainer. It's not the big box gym. You're there one at a time with the trainer. And they have a great success rate. I've known some really great people who run that. And to say it simply, if someone has also gone through that, that's where, from that, I know they're willing to afford what I do. Those of you in a business consulting space, which part of what I do fits into that, I'll ask, where are you in your journey? Startup or scale up? Another way of finding out the willingness to spend as well as the willingness to take action. What else have you done so far? That's kind of a general universal one. One that I'm kind of direct on. There's an application on the jasonlinett.com site. And that one just simply asks, it's a Typeform. Typeform's a company. And where are you right now in your business? Two examples of this. I want to move from part-time to full-time. There's one option. I want to move from hobby to part-time. Here are the ones that I'm just transparent on. What's your current income in terms of what you want to build? 0 to 5,000, 5,000 to 10,000 a month, 10,000 to 20,000 a month, 20,000 to 50,000 a month. Because it's a different conversation when you're trying to move someone from 4 figures a year to 5 figures a year, and 5 figures a year to 6 figures a year, or even 6 figures to 7 figures a year. And oftentimes, Joshua, back to your question, you can start to eliminate some of this inside of your messaging. That if you start to be mindful of the stories that you tell, the fact that here we are, this is group consulting, and it goes along with a program, and it wasn't intentional, but it's just how I communicate. There were stories of people who wanting to increase their rates. So look at what sort of, we made a cul-de-sac reference already today, what kind of statements, what kind of stories, what kind of questions you can ask that are going to have them raising their hand and qualifying and pre-qualifying themselves before they ever get to you. Which, if you've got further questions on that, drop them down below, or you're over in the influence group. So drop them over there in our private community as well. And it's anonymous because that funny eCam link, knocking out of the park today, JL. Aw, thank you. As someone who's never followed any sports, hole in one with the home run. If these are things that you're not yet doing with your business, if you're catching yourself right now kind of chasing the game of session to session, if you find yourself ready to move from that 5 figures to 6 figures phrase, I'm here to help you with that. Drop that word Jedi down below, and we'll keep this conversation going. I've got to head out here in a minute, but feel free to keep the interaction going, the questions, the comments down below. It's all about making it rain. It's all about providing a phenomenal service for the people that you know for a fact you can help. I'd encourage you as well, drop in your favorite thumbs up, hearts, and smiley faces and all of that, because we love emojis. And a heads up too, by the way, next week, we're going to change things up because Monday, I can't do the typical 4 o'clock we've been doing, which is clearly working for a lot of you right now. We'll probably do the weekly call in this free community on Tuesday next week. So stay tuned. We're now scheduling them so they're easier to find. I got that earlier. And again, if what I've been talking about is resonating with you and it's something that you need help with, you owe it to your clients to get started. You owe it to your clients to make it easier. The more time you spend not implementing these strategies, not utilizing these principles, yes, it's money left on the table, but it's lives that you are not yet impacting with the skills and the services that you provide. So it's true. You owe it to your clients. See you soon.